Welcome to the 18th episode of Profs Radio, the show to A-style your business by learning from entrepreneurs' experience how to solve problems. I'm your host, Peter Martin, founder of Enterprise Profs, the community group to grow your business. Today we have Jeni Smith from Networking Know-How. Good morning, Jeni. Do you want to say hi to the listeners and tell them about what you do?
Hi everyone. My name's Jeni Smith. I'm the founder of Networking Know-How, and I'm passionate about connecting people and bringing people together in person and getting them to have conversations and spark ideas and help them grow their businesses through networking. So what I do is I teach networking skills and I create networking strategies.
It sounds like you've been doing that a while as well, because we were just talking before about how we met 4 years ago and you were part of another networking club. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I accidentally fell into networking when it was 2006. So I was still at uni in Liverpool and I was doing some voluntary work at a company who did CGI and animation, and I still don't really understand what that is, to be honest. But the owner took me along to this networking event. And no one had ever warned me or told me what to expect from these things. So I kind of just got thrown in a room full of strangers and expected just to chat to them. I was a little hungover at the time as well, so that didn't help. But I was absolutely terrified. It was genuinely one of the scariest experiences of my life. And I swore I spent most of the time hiding in the bathroom, and I swore that I would never go again. But I did. And I eventually absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with getting to meet all these different people and learning from them and finding out about them. And a year after graduating, networking led to my first job, which was a fantastic it allowed me to stay in Liverpool, which was brilliant. But a year after that, I launched my first business, which I invented a job where I went networking full time. So I used to go to networking events on behalf of a lot of different people that didn't like doing it or didn't have time to do it. So I would go to 5-6 events a day, Monday to Friday. I didn't pay for food or wine for a year. It was absolutely brilliant. But after a year of doing that, I just didn't want to speak to anyone. I was drained and tired, and I kind of grew it. There was only so many businesses I could look after. So it didn't have that scale-up potential as a business model. So I moved home to Carlisle in Cumbria, which is where I'm from, and took what I'd learned attending events and turned it into a networking organisation. So I hosted events for people. So I launched that and ran it and built it up over the next 4 or 5 years. And again, it was really tough to begin with because networking wasn't a massive part of business culture at the time. So it was a lot of trying to educate people on the value that comes from networking. Anyway, I enjoyed it and learnt loads from doing that. And then I met my now husband on holiday in Magaluf, of all places. But he was from the Northeast, and I decided to move over here, find a new challenge, and met David, who founded the Muscle Club, which is a networking company here in the Northeast, quite a few years previous. And blagged his head in until he gave me a job and let me be the MD of there, and that's where we met. I ran the Muscle Club for 2 or 3 years again, which was amazing, and got to meet so many Northeast businesses and different industries. And then after some time there, I decided it was time for a change from networking to learn something different. So for the past few years, I've been working at Sunderland Software City, learning about tech and doing business support. So helping businesses in the region who are innovating and creating new technologies, which again was brilliant, and I learned loads. But I had a baby 8 months ago and decided that rather than returning to Software City, which I do, it was a hard decision to make, but I decided to go back to what I love, which is networking. So now I'm kind of sharing my knowledge and helping businesses be better, more effective strategic networkers.
You said it was a crazy story. So you've gone from crying in the bathroom to teaching people how to do it.
Exactly. So I always say to people though, if you don't cry at your first networking event, you're doing better than I did. So if you didn't cry, and even if you didn't like it, you can always get better. Definitely. It comes with time.
I must admit, I do struggle with the networking. You go around and it's all very formal, the same questions.
Yeah,
the small talk is really awkward.
There's so many different formats, and part of what I teach is helping people find the style that suits them. Because with networking, if you're not relaxed, and you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to be yourself. And people are there to get to know you. That's where the relationships build, and that's where the business comes from. So it's finding what works for you.
So you're now setting up your business basically in the middle of this pandemic that we've got going on. So that must kind of provide some challenges in itself. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I wasn't, as anyone was, expecting this lockdown, especially, I'll start a business that teaches people how to network face to face, and then no one's allowed out of the house. So definitely timing wise, it felt at the beginning like it couldn't have been worse, when actually it's probably worked out really well for me, because I've taken this time to lay a foundation for my business. So I've spent a lot of time creating the content for the training that I want to deliver, speaking to businesses about what areas of networking they need that support with. And I've actually started getting some business in, working remotely. So I've been doing some training remotely for like Durham City Incubator. I'm creating some networking strategies for businesses who are, while on lockdown, they're looking to upskill their knowledge, but also create a strategy so it's in place ready for when we're allowed to go back out into the wild again. So it's definitely different, and it's made me have to really diversify and think about what I was going to offer, because a lot of the business I had lined up was delivering training in person at the universities and things like that. But now that things are starting to calm down a bit, people are going, right, okay, we're in this situation. How can we make positive actions to get ready for post-lockdown, or what can we be doing now to support our staff? So there is actually quite a lot. There's a lot going on. So and it's opened up another world of that remote training. That's something that I probably never would have considered. So that's something that I hope to continue after lockdown. Takes away the geographic issue. Yeah. So
you touched on an important bit there about the way that people are thinking, because obviously it's quite easy to kind of put the feet up, right, nothing's happening, whereas yourself and the people that you seem to be working with are kind of proactive. Well, we're in this situation, how can we make the best of a bad job, basically? And this is going to end, so what we're going to do when it's ending, how can we come back fighting even more?
Yeah, definitely. I think trying to take positives out of it. It's such a terrible situation. Like what's happening is just awful, and businesses are really struggling in a lot of ways. And so I think if we can try and look for the positives, that's all you can do. Try and look for positives, and try and look for ways in which because everything's so out of control at the moment. We can't control what's going on out there, but we can control what we're doing in our businesses. So that's kind of an area where if you focus some positive energy there and like really look at, right, what can I do to support other people as well? So a lot of the networking stuff, obviously it's face to face traditionally, but there's a lot of networking that people can be doing from home, and that comes from knowledge transfer and supporting people within their network and building up their personal brand from home. You can do that now. So
are you doing much kind of virtual networking stuff? Is there a lot of that going on?
There's loads, there's more coming out, which is brilliant. I haven't had the chance to do much really, to be honest. But I've seen some, obviously you've got Zoom calls, and you can have conferences, and I've done some training via Teams, Microsoft Teams, but there's other platforms. There's just one this morning that I saw that Durham Business Club are using, and it creates like tables, so it's as if people are networking sat around a table together. It's like those one-to-ones, which is really nice. Like virtual networking they're doing. So there's a lot of different things happening, which is good. And one of the positives, again, that comes from this is that it takes away the geographic issue. So with networking, obviously people stay close to home because of the travel, but that travel cost doesn't exist anymore. So if you have always wanted, for example, to expand your business into a new city, like you want to look at Manchester or London or a new country even, now's the time that you can start building connections in those cities from your home. So you can start networking anywhere in the world from your sofa, really. So that's a positive when it comes to what the current situation is.
And do you think it's just as easy or to build relationships kind of this way online, or would you always say face-to-face networking is better for those relationship building?
For me, I would always say that you can't beat face-to-face. Mm-hmm. I think since we've had the option of face-to-face taken away from us with friends and family as well as business, I think the power of it has become really apparent more than ever before of the difference is. And I think a lot comes from, it's great that we can video chat and the technology is fantastic, but there's something about being around people and getting their energy and, you know, reading their body language and how they carry themselves and their tone of voice that doesn't come across the same. So those relationships that you build in person, that trust is built there in a different way, I feel, than it is online. And you can't replicate that online. We've not done that yet. Technology, I don't think's done that just yet. It might do one day, but for me, I think nothing beats face to face.
I find it quite ironic, like, despite the advances in technology, nothing still has replaced the business card.
No, I know you cannot. There's something about touching the feel of like a new business card, especially if it's like quite a thick one, and someone go, oh, that's a nice business card. That quality, it's that tangible. It's another element to like human senses. Like you can't get the same as face to face. An electronic version, it's just not the same. Yeah.
No, does it work? Just touching on the technology, because you were talking about the challenges that you've had kind of in lockdown and how you're solving that by forward thinking and doing planning. Is there kind of any software that's helped you to do that? So you're working, obviously you can't go out and meet your clients that you're discussing with. So what kind of technology are you using?
So for me, I use LinkedIn a lot, which is an obvious given as a networker in person. It's important to reinforce those relationships digitally. At the moment, we're using a lot of Zoom. So using Zoom for meetings, as well as like Microsoft Teams, and even a bit FaceTime with people that I'm like friends with, but it's a discussion's a bit quicker. Zoom I'm actually using for a different reason as well. So I'm using it, you can create on Zoom, you can, obviously you want to host a meeting, but you can just host one with yourself and then screen share and record yourself delivering a presentation. Obviously there's no one else in the meeting, but it's a good way. So I've been using that as a way of rehearsing almost. So using my PowerPoint presentations, and obviously record yourself. So then after I've delivered some training, I can watch it back to myself as a way of making notes, making changes. So it's kind of a little cheat-free way of getting that feedback and being able to watch yourself deliver something in the way that it would be received by a delegate remotely. So I've been using Zoom for that way as well, which has been fun. So
that's an interesting way. I've not heard of it used like that.
Yeah,
as teachers, you're supposed to do self-reflection. So that's
exactly. It's
quite a handy little tool. And in terms of project management, because obviously you're doing a lot of forward planning, is there kind of any tools or software that you're using for that?
For project management, I'm a big fan. It's not as applicable to me now, but I'm a big fan of Slack as a tool, especially. So I've been using that slightly because a lot of the work I'm doing is going to be doing is project based. So I can use it as an extension of someone's team and then kind of dip out again as a project ends. It's great, obviously, for sharing files and information, as well as having that resource there that's easier to access. And it's a lot quicker than email. So I'm a big fan of Slack. I like an old-fashioned spreadsheet as well, to be honest. Yeah. Although I do really enjoy Pipedrive. I don't know if you've come across that one. That's a really good piece online software. That's a really good project management tool that helps with financial forecasting as well as project management. So I enjoy that. That's a really good bit of software.
Yeah, Pipedrive's quite
visual,
powerful.
and that's because I'm quite a visual person. So I like the movement that comes with it. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, Pipedrive does that. I think you just drag it onto the different columns, don't you?
Yeah, it's visual, and yeah, I like that. I like MailChimp. I've not used MailChimp in years, but I like MailChimp. More as a brand. They sent me a t-shirt once, so I became a fan.
Oh, right, that's it. They give you a t-shirt.
Send me a t-shirt.
If anybody wants to make you happy, they send you a t-shirt and then you become a brand ambassador for it.
And I'll talk about your software for years to come. Exactly.
Good tip. So what would be your top tip for entrepreneurs who are wanting to get more out of network, either remotely or face-to-face?
So my big thing with networking is that I want businesses and people, and I'm really passionate about helping them get the best return on their investment. So people don't often think of networking as an investment, but it's a massive one in terms of the time that they put in, the effort, the financial, and all the costs associated. So for me, networking really needs to be strategic in the same way that you would have a marketing strategy or social media strategy. I'm really passionate about getting businesses to think strategically about networking and look at their ROI and their bottom line, and look at, for me, they really need to think about why they're going networking and why their staff are going networking. What do they want to get from events? What do they want to get from their relationships? Who their target market is and where they're positioning themselves in order to meet those people. So yeah, getting people, my biggest tip would be think strategically, take a step back. Now is a great time to step back from networking. Obviously we've got no choice in terms of the face-to-face. So it's a good time for reflection and thinking, right, what have I been doing and what's been working, and what can I be doing in the new world, that's gonna mean that I maybe even network less, but get more from the events that I attend because they're the right ones for me and for my business. So yeah.
I don't know if you know a lady called Tiana Wilson Bays.
Yeah.
She was actually on this podcast. She's got a really simple way of measuring ROI on networking. She goes back to a CRM system, and she's made a little box that says, I met this person at a networking event. So when she gets business, she can trace it all the way back to the networking and go, this is how much business I got from networking. So is it working for me? Is it not working? Which meetings are working best for me? And she does that. And I thought, actually, it's not hard to do, just an extra box in your CRM.
No. Exactly. Little things like that are fantastic. When it comes to like creating the strategy to begin with, so during my life as different phases of networking, I kind of in my mind created this ecosystem of networking, of what it looks like a visual. Again, I said I'm a visual person. So I did a doodle of it one day at Software City, and the CEO, David Dunn, said, right, that's a hypothesis. You need to go off and research it. And I was like, okay. So I ended up doing 2 rounds of academic research with Durham University into this ecosystem, which has again spurred me on to start this new business, because the ecosystem allows me to speak to a business and then on the back of that information know exactly where they should be networking, and then explain that back to them so that in the future they can ensure that they're attending the right events based on their target market, which again means that they can improve that ROI. So like you said, looking at it strategically and monitoring where things are coming back from just proves how powerful networking can be. Yeah.
One of the issues in networking is when you go, you're often speaking to other sales managers. So that tends to be, you're not speaking to somebody who's, but I suppose it's that relationship building that you say.
Yeah, it's a bit of a relationship building, but it's also a bit, if your target market sales managers, brilliant, you're in the right place.
Yeah,
target market not, then that's not the right networking event for you. So if your target market's business owners, for example, and those businesses you want to be turning over at least $1 million a year, $1 million plus, you need to be attending events that attract those people. And they're different kinds of events than the ones that attract the salespeople. So it's about same way that an event, if you want to get in front of startup businesses, if that's your target market, startup events are very different to the CEO of the multi-million pound turnover business. That it's a different target market. So it's thinking about why you're networking, and then for who your target market is, and then you can create a strategy from there.
Just as you should be doing with any type of marketing, whether that's print, social media.
Exactly.
Not going along just for the breakfast.
I mean, it's nice to get free food, but it doesn't, the investment that you're putting in, you need to make sure you're getting it back. Definitely. Yeah.
And lastly, what is your favorite software or tool and why?
Oh, my favorite. I think probably for me, the one I use the most would definitely be LinkedIn. As obviously a networker, it's an online networking tool. that allows me to connect and engage with people. Something that people don't often utilize with LinkedIn is the groups, which I find really valuable because it's a great way to connect with people outside of your direct network. So engaging and putting content and sharing information for me is a massive what part of networking is. Networking by attending events is only a small part of actual networking. So there's a lot you can do before and a lot you can do afterwards. And a lot of that involves digital and social media marketing, which isn't my expertise at all. And there's a lot of people that are great at that, and I follow and listen to what they say. But as a tool, as a piece of software, or as a platform, LinkedIn is probably my most used platform. And as a startup business, I'm using QuickBooks, which is a great way for me to keep track of everything. And Starling Bank as well. I'm a big fan of Starling Bank. I know
Starling Bank.
Yeah, I've got personal and business, and I just think as a brand, as a business, and the functionality and everything that comes with Starling is fantastic. So I'm a big fan of QuickBooks for financial, and obviously Starling for bank, for business, as a startup. It's great.
Yeah, I found it, but I mean, there's lots of these online banks sort of popping up. I mean, a lot of them aren't real banks though, but Starling is. But I switched to companies and
no fees,
accounts to it.
Yeah, really good customer service and functionality. So user friendly, can't complain. Definitely.
I'm actually going to ask you for one more tip, just based on LinkedIn, because I find with LinkedIn is people connect with you and then seem to bombard you with sort of sales messages and. Or join my group or do this, and it's kind of like, well, that's not the way. All that's going to do is get you removed, really.
Yeah, that again for me, networking. There's a part of networking that I call connection marketing, which is about building your personal brand and your business's brand by being nice and adding value to people that know you. Because when you add value to people, then more people want to know you, and your network grows organically in a positive way. So those people that you just mentioned who are bombarding you with sales things and stuff, they're actually doing themselves a disservice. And, that they're not bad people. They're not, they're not nasty or anything. That's how they've been taught. So maybe that's the culture of the business that they're working in. But I always try and remember that these people are people, and in 2, 3, 5 years, you never know, you might cross paths again. So when people bombard me with sales messages, I'll always be polite and reply. I always try and reply anyway to everyone and say like, thanks, but this isn't for me right now. Take care. And, leave on things with the doors open on a nice note. But obviously, because those people have left a negative impression to you, that just shows you how not to behave yourself. So if you can do the opposite and add value to people in your network by sharing valuable information, sharing content that's going to help educate them and show you as an expert in your field, if you can add things that make people smile or help them in other areas of their business and connect them with other people as well, introduce them to others, all these things add value to them to be part of your network. So that helps build your brand as someone that's helpful and useful to know, which is always going to be positive.
I suppose those sales messages are a perfect opportunity for you, because you go, this actually isn't the right way of doing it. Here's a blog post on how to improve your LinkedIn connection.
Yeah, I should really, just reply, you're terrible at this. This really isn't what you should be doing. You need to come to my training course. That's right. Give me some money and I'll teach you how to do it right. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
There you go.
Well, thanks for coming on today. I think you've given loads and loads of value to people that have been listening about how they can network better and those connections. So thanks very much for your time.
Well, thanks for having me, Peter. I've had a ball. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.